Welcome to Today at Wayne, a podcast that engages and informs the Wayne State University campus community. With news, announcements, information, and current events discussions relevant to the university's goals and mission, Today at Wayne serves as the perfect forum for our campus to begin a conversation or keep one going. Thanks for joining us. Welcome to the Today at Wayne podcast. I'm Daryl Dawsey. Last August, Detroit native and Wayne State alumnus Reginald M. Turner was named as the new president of the American Bar Association, the world's largest voluntary association of lawyers, judges, and other legal professionals. An accomplished litigator, government affairs advocate, and strategic advisor who works for the Clark Hill law firm, Turner, an African-American, was appointed to the position nearly 2 decades after former Detroit Mayor Dennis Archer was named the group's first ever Black president. Now, as he and the group move into 2022, they, like the rest of the country, find themselves in the middle of a national conversation on diversity in a range of issues, from race and voting rights to LGBTQ equality to the role poverty plays in restricting equal access to the law. As president, Turner has made diversity, especially the diversification of the ranks of the nation's lawyers, a key priority. And he's here with us today to discuss his leadership role at the ABA and his vision for the organization. Welcome, Reggie.
Thank you very much, Daryl. It's a privilege to be here today.
Absolutely. Wonderful to have you. Wonderful to have you. Very proud of you. Doing great things there. And I just want to talk a little bit about your position. You're about halfway through now your term as ABA president, right? You were elected in August of last year, and your term runs through August of 2022, as I understand. And so I'm just kind of, is that right?
Yes. Okay.
I'm hoping you could just talk to us a little bit about the role. What's been the most rewarding part of the job so far, and what have been some of the challenges?
Well, there are always peaks and valleys with respect to activity, and there will always be the 4 goals of the American Bar Association with respect to serving our members, to help them with their practices, serving the public, to ensure that we are providing access to justice throughout communities in the United States. We also engage in work to support the rule of law throughout the world. Mm-hmm. So we have a national focus and an international focus. And ultimately, it is our goal to ensure that there is access to justice for all who need the protection of the law.
Okay, all right. What would you say is the biggest challenge, I guess, facing you and the organization as you're moving forward? What's the single, if you had to identify 1 or 2 big options? I know there are plenty, but if you had to boil it down to just a couple, what would be some of the more pressing?
Well, access to justice is always important, and it runs through the full panoply of issues, whether it is landlord-tenant matters or big global diversity issues. Access to justice and supporting the rule of law are absolutely essential. And so, for example, the ABA has a rule of law initiative program that works with nations around the world to ensure that there is a conversation about protecting the rule of law and having protocols in place that make it clear as to what the law is in various nations and how that law is protected and carried out on a day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month basis in the courts, in police actions, and in the political activities of those nations. And the ABA has had a hand in helping to create new constitutions for new nations, helping existing nations to draft their constitutions or revise their constitutions in ways that will protect the rule of law, and will give citizens some of the freedoms or all of the freedoms that we take for granted in the United States.
Now, when we talk about the rule of law around the world, there are some people who would point to some of the things that have happened here in the United States, especially in the last few years, that would suggest that, that we might want to focus as well on the issue of the rule of law here in America. I don't want you to get off in any particular, take a particular political position, but I am just kind of curious, are you concerned at all based on some of the things that we're seeing about just the rule of law here in the United States and where we're headed?
Well, I think that our great nation has always had challenges. I recognize that our nation was born in a revolution when we threw off the yoke of British rule in the United States and formed a brand new nation, the United States of America. And over the course of time, that seed blossomed into from the original colonies into what we now have as 50 states and some U.S. possessions around the world. Okay. And so we have a great constitution as amended after the Civil War, with the protections for people of color, the freed slaves, and to allow the right to vote, which wasn't, of course, fully realized in any meaningful way until the Voting Rights Act was passed nearly 100 years later. Okay. And so we will always have challenges with respect to the rule of law in the U.S. and around the world, because there are always people who want to put their own advantages before the public welfare, and that is why the rule of law is so important, and to have systems that not only are effective in supporting the law, but also in gaining public support for the rule of law.
Okay. All right. Well, I want to go back. I want to circle back to what we were talking about with regard to diversity, because I know that's a big part of your platform there. And history tells us, of course, that the American Bar Association was not always receptive to diversity, was not always receptive to African Americans, so much so that Black lawyers actually formed their own association, the National Bar Association. I believe it was in 1925, because they weren't allowed to join the ABA. So your presence here, as well as some of your predecessors, clearly shows that times have changed, and that's a great thing. But the issue of diversity obviously remains on the table. And I was wondering if you could just sort of get into it with us a little bit about why. We talk about diversity, the need, diversity, equity, inclusion, but why is it so important, particularly as it pertains to the legal profession? Just talk a little bit about that.
Well, I was a child that grew up in the city of Detroit, understanding that that the protection of the public is something that is an honor for an individual to have, and I saw that a lot through my father, who was a Detroit police officer, and one of my most vivid early experiences was the 1967 riot in the city of Detroit. Racial tensions had just gone to a complete boil. There was police brutality in the city of Detroit, and the department was not doing very much about that. And the rebellion was a very, very, very scary time days on end. My dad was working, 24/7 with his fellow police officers, trying to restore the rule of law in the city of Detroit. Mm-hmm. But after the riot, our family was looking for ways to kind of heal our troubled psyches after the smoke, the burning, the shootings, and the police brutality that led to all of that disruption. So my parents were very very smart. They found a program with Focus Hope. I don't know if you remember Eleanor Jositis, who ran Focus Hope. Yeah, we were in the City Suburban Exchange program with the Latanzio family from St. Clair Shores, Michigan. And that was my first introduction to diversity and inclusion. Wow. We did home and home visits with the Latanzio family and had picnics together. And it really helped me to understand that people of different races can congregate, can learn about each other, can build friendships and build bridges instead of walls. And I've tried to pass that along to my children as well. We've always tried to be open and to fulfill the in my view the very important task of ensuring that there is diversity and inclusion in all aspects of the work and play that we engage in over the course of time. And my experiences were deepened in terms of the level of effort and the actual outcome when I became a law clerk for Dennis Archer when he was a justice of the Michigan Supreme Court. Mm-hmm. And he was the first person of color to be president of the American Bar Association. During the time that I was clerking for him at the Michigan Supreme Court, while he was engaging in his ABA activities, I watched him create what was then called the American Bar Association Commission on Opportunities for Minorities in the Legal Profession. Wow. That's a mouthful, isn't it? That's
a lot.
Today, that first ABA diversity entity, that first intentional effort to bring diversity and inclusion in an established way at the American Bar Association originated right here in downtown Detroit through Dennis Archer. All right. And today, now almost 30 years later, the ABA has a very, 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 very large diversity center in the organization, in which we deal not only with racial diversity, we deal with ethnic diversity, we deal with differently abled diversity, we deal with issues of gender, sexual orientation, and the full panoply of diversity issues are now addressed by the American Bar Association and what we call our diversity center now, with the various entities. And I've been very proud of the work. And following in my mentor, Dennis Archer's footsteps, I had the opportunity of chairing one of those diversity issues, one of those diversity initiatives that is now called the ABA Commission on Racial and Ethnic Diversity in the Profession. Okay. I was the chair of that before becoming president of. Tell
us a little bit, really quickly. What was your role as chairperson of that commission?
Our biggest program in the Diversity Center for in the Center for Racial and Ethnic Diversity was to hold the Minority Council program, where we would bring diverse lawyers from around the nation together once a year to first get continuing legal education, but also to engage in activities that would help to sharpen all of our acumen with respect to advancing diversity and inclusion in our work, in our community services, in our political activities, to open the door for those who had previously been denied opportunity in a variety of ways.
Okay, all right. Well, listen, I know you're a busy man. I'm not going to hold you up too much longer. There's one question I'm just kind of hoping you might be able to speak to a little bit. And you know, just as kind of moving away from some of the more serious issues, but you know, you're a very accomplished man. You've done a lot of fantastic things. You're a proud Wayne State alumnus. I was just wondering if you could talk just a little bit about the role that Wayne State played in kind of helping shape your outlook and helping to develop you professionally.
Oh, Wayne State University was really a godsend for me, in the sense that you know, my parents were both public servants, and they didn't make a lot of money, and they had 4 kids to educate, and so you know, when I graduated from Cass Tech High School, you know, it was not possible for me to go off to a you know, a private college, or really any college that would you know, where I would have significant tuition, and so my dad got me a job loading trucks at United Parcel Service. Okay. In the evening. So I went to school during the day, loaded trucks at UPS and at night, and got my my tuition paid for out of my own pocket. And my parents allowed me to live at home, so I wouldn't have room and board. And my brother, my younger brother, did the same thing. He went to Wayne State and worked his way through Wayne State. He had a different job, but my father, you know, and mother were very proud of the fact that we were making our own way, and it was a great experience, because actually that was probably the second biggest factor in my ultimately deciding I wanted to be a lawyer. The first was when I was very young, when my dad and I were going out to run some errands one day, and we were in the vestibule at our home in Northwest Detroit. And I looked up at him and said, "Dad, you know, when I grow up, I want to be a police officer, just like you." And he said, "Son, that's really nice, but I want you to be a lawyer like my friend Elliot Hall." Ah. Mm-hmm. And it stuck. So and my dad lived to see me become a lawyer, and to this day I have opportunities to see Elliot Hall and remind him that he was a role model when I was 7 years old.
And for those who may not know, Elliot Hall is a titan in the legal profession, and is also a proud Wayne State warrior.
Absolutely. So. Yes, sir.
Well, listen, Reggie, once again, I really want to say thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to sit down and just give us a few minutes. Before I let you go, I just want to open up the floor, give you an opportunity to talk about anything that maybe we didn't get a chance to touch on, or is it something that you want to emphasize or underscore before we get out of here?
Well, yeah, I think my favorite part of the lawyer's oath is the part that makes clear to lawyers that we have a duty to help to make society more fair. And and it's in the lawyer's oath. There's a part of the lawyer's oath that says, "I shall never reject from any consideration personal to myself the cause of the defenseless or oppressed, or delay anyone's cause for lucre or malice." And with a lot of help from a lot of people, a lot of support and a lot of advice, I've tried to live out that part of the lawyer's oath during the course of my career. Access to justice for those who need it, providing legal services to level the playing field and create a better nation.
Well, you certainly have the history that backs that up. Well, again, Mr. Reginald M. Turner, thank you so very much. We appreciate you joining us here on the Today at Wayne podcast, and I hope we can get you back again soon.
Thank you, Daryl. It's been a privilege to be with you today, and I thank your listeners for allowing me to be with them for a bit today as well.
Absolutely, our pleasure. You take care.
Thank you. You too. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to Today at Wayne. We'd love to hear from you, our campus community, about other podcast ideas and topics. What compelling things are you doing to spread the good word about living, learning, working, and playing like a warrior? Let us know by visiting todayatwayne.edu.